Hi everyone. It's been a little bit of time since the previous video. Last video I was going over Permafrost Rounds, Fragmentation Rounds, trying to scale that up with single target damage. The AoE clear, like just general mapping, was more than sufficient. Definitely in T15s. It still had some issues with like defense. It had some issues with single target. And before I get into this kind of build that I've been brain blasting here and there in between like Borderlands 4 and playing WoW, I kind of wanted to go over where I stopped on that build. I think that build is a really good league starter. Minimal investment. Nowadays, you can craft a really good Giga crossbow that you could just blast with. But trying to scale your damage to kind of like what Deadeye is, even though Deadeye is in a league of its own with the different builds that are out there, I wanted to try to get something close to that. There is a caveat with the way I was pathing on the tree, where I was not getting any sort of crit nodes, so I'm missing out on just an extra scalar of damage. I tried some of the nodes or the jewel that allows you to pick up notables or just passives on the tree without pathing to it. So I picked up, I forget the name of it, but it allows me to allocate nodes around CI. I had this, so extra damage is chaos. I picked this up. More times than not, everything is chilled, so that's just extra lightning. If the enemy was shocked, then that's just extra damage is cold. And then eventually I picked up like these two, so freeze build up, damage against frozen enemies, and then this freeze build up, and then hits ignore belly res. That builds, I can showcase a little bit of what I was trying. So go back a little bit. So there was a Reddit user that made a Amazon. They were going crossbow, but their build was revolved around trying to use high velocity rounds as debuff, so this Riven armor that's right here, to then scale shotgun style skills. So things like Permafrost rounds, incendiary rounds, but what he chose was Fragmentation rounds. What he was doing, or they were doing, was they were doing a weapon swap where you would apply your broken armor, shock if you had it, and then high velocity rounds for the Riven armor. But then on the weapon swap, you would have the low level crossbow that has insane attack speed. And then if you happen to reload recently, it just makes it so you can just fire your gun for like 6 seconds or something. So he had that paired up with Fragmentation rounds on Weapon Swap 2 and had things like Martial Tempo 3, Rigwald's Furiosity, basically just as much attack speed as possible. So this is me trying that out because for those of you who don't know, Riven Armor, the debuff makes it so 5% of the high velocity rounds is hit as pre-mitigated, like stored impale, can then be followed up with other abilities to like kind of extract that impale, but not really. It's basically an impale with infinite stacks, but it has duration instead. So I'll just show it here. So I'm just shooting like 30,000 times a second. Apply the debuff, Riven armor, and then I just shoot frag rounds like crazy. And then kind of the follow-up with that is you have these impale stacks where you can consume them pretty fast with high armor piercing rounds. Sorry, I was forgetting the name. And that would be another way to like continue your damage. So it's not as bursty, it's just like elongated. So I was trying this out. It seemed kind of decent. Again, I wasn't using a build that was focusing on crit. So my potential is pretty limited unless if I like super giga buffed my gear. And then this is me trying to run a T3 Zest. And clearing it was kind of okay. I mean, it's respectable. I'm not blowing through everything. But it's like decent movement speed, somewhat decent attack speed. Everything's basically frozen when the Ascendancy AoE procs. You know, it's good. One change that I did, though, is I got rid of the weapon swap stuff. But then I kept some of the attack speed on the passive tree and then the support gems along with this. Because there's a new support gem that allows you to add more bolts. However, it lowers your damage, but to compensate, you get like more attack speed as well. The other thought that I had was unironically trying to use Plasma Blast. There was a change that they did with Plasma Blast where you can get a more effective shock because the shock chance against a target, if they have like a decent enemy threshold, you still kind of have like 100% chance to shock just because of the amount of damage that you shoot in that one shot, which I think with a +6 crossbow is in the ballpark of 4,700 of your weapon damage. Like, ridiculous. And then they changed the quality to then give you more shock duration. So in my head, instead of having this be like your boss ability, before an engagement, you can use Plasma Blast to apply like a pretty decent shock that has moderate duration. And then you go into all of your shit. I'll speed it up here. So I fire this. It's a 30% shock without really much support gems into there. This is me trying to do the armor debuff, Riven armor. Damage is whatever. It's nothing even remotely close to what people are outputting on some of the higher end builds. So this is kind of like where I stopped. Like, even though it's kind of respectable, I just didn't feel that great trying to push it even more. Even though there's still, I think, a couple upgrades that I could have done. So instead, what I've been cooking up in my brain is playing Titan and going a crossbow bleed build. Titan has this node where you get increased effective small passive skills. So this may be picking up more body armor for defense, but then there's also this because I feel like you can heavy stun pretty easily with Bloodhound's Mark. I haven't tested it yet. Maybe this more damage does apply to a super juiced up bleed, which might help if it's aggravated. But what am I doing? So I'm pathing down here first to pick up this physical damage. Because early on, I don't have a lot of dex, so pathing down here to get some dex, getting some strength for life. Then I went to here to get the magnitude. I do have chance to bleed. However, I'm thinking of just using the gems to give me 100% chance to bleed, and using the points instead of on chance to inflict bleed on other things like armor, damage, movement speed, attack speed, all that stuff. I then path down here to just get some attack speed. I path over here to pick up some of these nodes. I stopped here because I entered this area. So the main culprit behind why I picked Titan was because of this head. I had this in the previous build with the Permafrost Rounds. It's still really good. And a lot of these surrounded nodes are really efficient with the one passive point that you click into them. So the idea, I'll just take this out for now, was to utilize Titan's Ascendancy to get these guys even higher than what they are naturally. So 37%, which I had POE up. So just taking this off, it's 25% attack damage while surrounded. So 25 goes up to 37. And then, because this area, like right here, is so nutrient dense with nodes that are like really good, you do have these time loss jewels where it has this increased effect of small passive skills. And then you also have things like increased armor, physical damage, bleed duration, magnitude of bleed, all that stuff. So when I slot this into here, it now goes up to 43% increased attack damage while surrounded. And to like put it into context, like a 43% node just with a small passive is basically this, where I have to path, like let's just say as this an example. So 1, 2, 3, 4 passive points just to be able to get 40%. And you do have 15% here, but the reason why you would kind of path here in the first place is because you would probably want the fizz damage and the amount of life leech. So having this time loss ruby jewel in this spot and then also kind of in this spot as well makes putting points into these surrounded nodes like even more efficient. And because I was doing a bleed build, and because I'm also a Titan, I figured I might as well focus strictly on armor as a defense. But also, since I'm doing the whole piercing rounds, high velocity, fragmentation, all that stuff, why not pick up these nodes here? I could technically get a prefix that makes it so it changes the radius from small to medium, which would mean it hits these and it hits this and this. But I don't think it's worth it in this spot because I'm basically either trading increased armor or increased physical damage, which I feel like with the amount of small nodes I pick up here anyways, I would rather have the small radius than the medium and then just miss out on one of those extras. Because with at least right now 3% armor, that's 9 small passive nodes just from what's in the radius of 27% increased armor, which is basically this node. So I'm getting that node up there in addition to all of this stuff here. And then same with 27% increased physical damage because of all the small nodes that I've picked up. And then eventually I'm going to pick up these nodes, right? And this duel has bleed duration, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Bleed duration is like a way to scale your damage, right? Because the damage happens for a longer period of time. Or like the opposite way of doing it is, where is it? you have this node or other nodes like it or methods where the duration of the bleed is actually shorter. So you kind of don't want either or. Probably just stick to one. You want to have your bleeds be super quick or your poisons be super quick. That's why you kind of like go that side. And then besides this, right now my gear's kind of shit. I'll shoot a boss in a second. But kind of idea of like where I'm going. I have two different variations of what I want to try. So first off is going this pathing to pick up these movement speed nodes here. Getting the attack speed nodes like right here. Going along this path, picking up this Herald skill to help with Herald of Blood. But also there is this jewel socket here that I can place another one of those small increased passives, and then I can upgrade it to a medium. So the the Scion ring is the medium radius. So it can hit the reload, it can hit the Herald, it can hit this attack speed, and then maybe I can like path here. But this would basically be like a dead node just to pick up this. So not sure what I would do here yet. But then pathing over here, picking up quality of life, and then going out to this jewel socket. Because I'm playing Titan, these nodes for increased attack damage. I think I still have it off, right? Yes. So like this node is 8%, and then 3 and 6. That jumps to 12, 4, and 9. So like these nodes are still pretty good to pick up, and it's quality of life, so you can shoot while running. And then the other variation that I was playing around with was foregoing this skill speed up here, picking up more armor nodes on this side, picking up armor break nodes over here, so like increased effective fully broken armor. And then instead of pathing down here, pathing here, I instead loop around, although I feel like you can kind of do either or. But then picking up bleed magnitude here, increase attack speed, and then the crossbow nodes here. Because I'm at least using 3 different types, so that's 75% increased damage. If I use Plasma Blast, that's 100%. And then I don't even know if this is good for the immediate reload. It's kind of like not consuming a bolt, but you still have to consume mana for reloading. So it's mostly just like a feel-good node. But I don't know yet. I'm still kind of playing with either or. I like the other tree because it has a lot of quality of life for just running and gunning. Although this setup here has more armor, specifically with this section. And then you have the more armor break stuff. But now to kind of show you what shooting a boss looks like. This is with shooting fast, bleed.
Your flesh. Not a chance. Be consumed. Cupid, bless me.
I have no idea why I couldn't attack him. That's kind of like the general gist. My thought process was to use frag rounds as the hard-hitting bleed. So deep cuts, brutality, bleed, just to make it 100%. Because of high velocity rounds is Riven armor. So again, like I mentioned, it soars 5%, but the frag rounds has this mechanic where the shrapnel merges. So each shrapnel that hits a target against Riven armor will utilize this 5%. So if you happen to hit 5 shrapnel onto one target, that's 50% of the pre-mitigation physical hit, which is more than Impale is. So it's kind of where I'm at. Again, still kind of playing around with ideas, passive tree, support gems, all that. Going armor, going the elemental damage, along with armor nodes, and then on gear, and then yeah, just going from there. But that's it for now. Thanks for watching. See you later.